This is not just a prop, it's got genuine sugar in. I feel the need to remind you that I'm on a birthing pool. So if I'm like bouncing around, it's because I am finally a little bit comfortable in the old hipple area. For today's Vlogmas, we're going to cover 12 tips for my future children. And 12 because it's Advent. So it's thematical. In no particular order other than how I wrote it. Here is a driving tip. When you are reversing, the last thing you want to do when you're in the forward position is to twist your wheel around so that you're better set up for when you actually reverse. This is from my granddad, and I'm not sure I'm explaining it very well, but what you want to not do is, like, say you're driving, and then you get into like this position. If you do not twist the wheel in advance, then the very first thing you're going to do as you're reversing is literally just go back the way you came. So if you finish off like the last couple of feet of going forward by repositioning, then you're making the maximum use of that space. It's a very clever tip, and you can think there's no alcohol in that. You know there's no alcohol in that, so I just can't speak today. But you can thank your great granddad for that one. If you cannot make a decision, then not making a decision in itself is a decision. So you need to make sure that you not making that decision is your decision. Make sure you're consciously deciding to do nothing. If somebody who has got superior tastes or is, I don't know, superior to you in some way is saying, oh, that food's so much better or that service is so much better, but you yourself cannot tell the difference, do not spend extra money on it because not everybody's experience is the same. Maybe you have dud taste buds. Don't necessarily listen to the experts, which is why there's so many different things that people enjoy. So just enjoy yourself. Clear your browser cookies before booking flights, just in case. I'm not sure whether that is going to be as relevant when you're grown up, but I mean, it's always better to do that. It is always better to be a little bit rude or lose a bit of money or a bit of time than to put yourself in danger. The fork is the superior utensil. Though please do learn how to use chopsticks, because then when you go places or go places with people that do not think you can use chopsticks, even if you say, I can use chopsticks, then you whip them out and are perfectly competent at using chopsticks, then you can just bask in the smugness that your capability has enabled you to experience. It used to be really uncool to listen to your gut, kind of like, I don't know, folky medicine. But now medical advice, like during this pregnancy, it keeps being said to me, if you feel like something is wrong and everything else is fine, like the kit count's fine, etc., listen to your gut, because you have capability more than we as scientists can explain 100% now. Okay, so you've got more elements to your senses that can come together and say whether there's something wrong with you, in you, or externally. So just trust your gut, but make sure that you don't close off listening to perfectly valid suggestions, which we're going to elaborate on in the next tip. I have gone through most of my life believing inherently that I am right. Case in point, I was less than 10. Your grandmother was parking in a parking space. She said it was a parking space. It was not a parking space. It was in the middle of a roundabout. And she was like, oh, we've parked here for decades. My dad parked here. We've never had a ticket. And I was just like, no. Something's wrong. You should not be parking there. I really don't want you to park here. Oh, no, it's fine. I remind her of this at least once a decade, probably. I don't know, probably more regularly than that. Frequently. Yeah, I reminded her of it the other week. Anyway, point is, that day we got a parking ticket. First one ever. Somebody's gut was going, no, alarm bells. So, inherently, I believe I am right a fair chunk of the time. However, there will be times that you are not right, even when you are convinced you are right. And you need to learn to accept that and prepare for it. And that is fine. You can't, sadly, always be right all of the time. But make sure that you practice that. If that is part of who you feel you are, practice that, because you don't want being right all the time to be such a big part of your identity that it seriously hurts you when you are no longer right. The next thing we'll elaborate on in a minute is why it's really important to accept help from others. But 2 key points for me. 1, the Christmas after your great-granddad passed away, I was convinced that we needed more chairs. We were really short on chairs. And I got in the car and I was driving. I just got beaten up on it. Everyone was saying, no, it's fine. We can make do. We'll be fine. And I wasted about I don't know, 2 hours round trip just getting these chairs. And that could have been time that I spent with the family. It's really, it's important to get out of your head because you can damage yourself. I knew as I was driving back, I was like, wait a second, if I'd maybe calmed down a bit, then it would have been a bit different. But I needed that time to realize it. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but I think that was one of the key points to me where I was like, okay, is this going to be another incident like that? Really not a big thing, but it does make you consider where your priorities are. And secondly, getting a dog from a puppy. Everyone said, oh, he'll be such an... But I didn't believe it. I was like, no, I won't let that happen. No, he went around me. And to be fair, he isn't quite as bad around me. But my God, the teenage years, they are so arsey. And it's just like, seriously? And it's a developmental stage. Like, it's really important for them to go through. And it's totally normal. But just everyone said it to me. And I was just not convinced until it happened. So this is one of the few times I've had to publicly, repeatedly go, you know what? You were right. Yes, it's no fun. It is no fun when he bites you for no reason. It's just... it's not all right. Elaboration time. Because I think I'm always right, I rely on myself a lot of the time. But it is so important to learn to rely on other people. Partly because as you get older, you are not as hot on certain things as other people can be. And that's just normal part of aging. And I think for me as a woman, that experience has been a little bit weird because I think being a young woman in the workplace has, again, been a key part of my identity. People are going to be younger than you and they're going to be really annoying because they're like, oh, yes, well, I'm 20-something. Oh, I can't imagine being as old as you. And you're like, oh, that's a bit painful. It wasn't that long ago that I was 20-something. So, yeah, you expect it, but when it comes, it doesn't make it any easier. But a really, really poignant point in a history video that I watched, I can't remember. I think it was either Stefan Milo or Northo2, perhaps Milo Rossi. They said about Homo sapiens as a species and how we rely on each other a lot. And it got me thinking, or maybe they even said it, every single invention that we've got, every single step forward is off the back of so many other little steps that people have done. So you will be, if you're trying to rely on yourself and make this really big discovery from scratch, it's never really going to be from scratch because the food on your plate, that is from millennia of people thinking about how to make it more efficient and how to bulk feed, all that sort of stuff. So where's the line? Because I was convinced when I was young, I was like, yeah, I'll do it all by myself. I'll make sure it's right that way. But something that is mostly right and is working and is a step forward is better than you spending your time not relying on anybody else and trying to do it all yourself, because you're not going to get anywhere. And if you really want to make a positive impact, then you need to rely on other people. That is our strength as a species. My granny in Scotland, who wasn't actually Scottish, but we're gonna, for all intents and purposes, I need to use the accent somehow. And this is a genuine Scottish accent. It's a little bit rusty and a little bit all over the place, but I had a Scottish accent at one point. Anyway, point is, my Scottish, who wasn't Scottish, granny gave me a cure for period pain. So I had really bad cramps when I was up there, to the extent that I think we were out in Stirling and I was going, literally lying on a bench going, oh my God. And I got my period relatively young, as apparently is the modern trend. She went into a pharmacy and got some paracetamol. I was like, oh, they won't work. Paracetamol never works. And by the way, the reason paracetamol never works is because you need to take the full dosage on the packet, as advised by a paramedic friend of your father's. So paracetamol does work. Just take the right dosage. But she went in there, got some paracetamol, got some water, got some Lucozade tablets. And that combination, seriously, just like it magically worked. So I don't know if I was just hungry or what, but make sure if you've got really bad cramps, hydrate, try to move around a little bit. Beddy sheep, so like little beddy animals that you put in the microwave, beanbaggy type things, they're really helpful. You can try a TENS machine. That's worth a try. All of these things, don't just sit there suffering, because it is miserable. It's freaking miserable. And you lose so much of your life to it. So you might as well not, if you can help it. But you'll probably know by now I don't generally pop the paracetamol, so it's heat and sometimes TENS for me. For a penultimate one, we're getting into some heavy hitting stuff. And this is advice from when I was down under. That is so bad. I'm so sorry. We had some workplace training about how to physically protect yourself as a female if somebody comes and attacks you. So you know what type of attack I'm talking about. If you are in that situation, number one, they do not think of you as a threat because they're probably going to get into your personal space and vice versa. So you can use that to your advantage. You can deck them, etc., from quite a vulnerable position. All right, that's number one. Number two, the experience is going to scar you. You need to decide whether somebody who's probably saying, keep still, do what I want, and then I won't hurt you. They may hurt you, they may not. Regardless, psychologically, you are going to be affected. It may be beneficial, and this is not blanket advice because you may not be successful if you try to fight back, but it may be beneficial if you do try because then you are fighting that threat. So then you do not sit in that psychological torture, that element, for the rest of your time. You won't always go over it and go, could I have done more? Hopefully. Statistically, you are more likely to be attacked by somebody that you know. You need to be thinking about your quality of life. Because somebody has brought that fight to you, nothing is off limits. Genitalia, eyeballs, that up the nose, nothing. There is not something that, I mean, you can practice self-defense, but there's the question of whether you would be thinking to use it immediately or would you just freeze. That's something that attackers can use to their advantage. If they think they're bigger than you, they think they've got the element of surprise, they control the situation, you don't know how you're going to react. And I hope that you never have to find out. But the important thing is attack and get as far away as quickly as possible. And we could be talking 10, 20 meters, get to a public place, get out of danger. And I can sadly really understand this. So especially in a workplace setting, women are worried about whether they are going to cause reputational damage to that person. Maybe I, misunderstood. Maybe I brought it up on myself. Maybe I gave the wrong signals out. But realistically, that's not what you need to be thinking about. You need to be thinking about your safety. And the number one thing I can say to you, my darling child, is get out of there, document it as much as possible, as quickly as possible. That is the only thing that you and I can do to protect you. That is horrible to say. It's a society that we live in. I want to protect you from that as much as possible. So that is the advice I have been given. I cannot believe I had that training. Never had that in the UK. I mean, maybe I should have done, but it was quite something. And I am not short, right? I was in that training with a load of people from China who are very close friends of mine, and they're like 5'3". I'm a good few inches taller than them and relatively stocky. And they were going, oh yeah, I've been feeling really worried in crowds. I'm like, oh, in a crowd, I'm normally like able to just see over people's heads. So there's a big difference. There's a really, really big difference. And we need to be mindful of that to protect you. And this is not necessarily gender specific, okay? Females are more likely to, be a victim of something sexual, but males are also really likely to be a victim of knife crime. And we need you, my darling, to just be as safe as possible. Lastly, I will always love you. You are a product of your father and myself. And I told you I'm always right, so you'd better always be right. We will always try to do our best by you, and that really is all either of us can ask for. No matter what happens, I will always be there for you, either in person or in spirit. I also always want you to succeed in whatever it is that you wish to do. I may not always agree. I may not always not nag or think that you're right. And that's just, I think, what parents do. We're there to support you as much as possible and try to get you to grow up and probably try to imprint as much of ourselves on you as possible. But I will always be there for you, no matter what. There is nothing that you can do that severs the bond between us because it's biological, baby. So since that's going to go on for eternity, you might as well open up the communications now because I'm always going to be there. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere. And as I get older and there's more time on my hands, it's like a toddler, I'll just be even more annoying and have more resources at my fingertips. Anyway, that sounds very threatening. I love you. See you later. Merry Christmas.